An analysis of Rickshaw Boy, The Wheel of Old Society, A Lament for Humanity. A literary masterpiece exposing the tragedies of old China's underclass, selling over 1 million copies and touching countless hearts. Why does Rickshaw Boy stand as Lao She's defining work, and how does it let us see humanity's struggles and hopes through Xiangzi's fate? Let's step into the streets of Beiping to explore the profound brilliance of this realist gem. Xiangzi's Wheel, A Journey from Hope to Despair. Rickshaw Boy, written by Lao She in 1936, tells the tragic story of Beiping rickshaw puller Xiangzi, crushed by the old society's oppression. Xiangzi, a young man from the countryside, arrives in Beiping dreaming of owning his own rickshaw. Believes hard work will lead to a decent life. But fate's wheel repeatedly crushes his hopes. His rickshaw is stolen, his savings are swindled, his marriage becomes a cage, and he transforms from a sturdy, honest puller into a living ghost. In Lao She's pen, Xiangzi embodies countless laborers at society's bottom. When he first arrives in Beiping, he's robust, clear-eyed, like a tree, strong, silent, yet full of life. He scrimps and saves for 3 years to buy his own rickshaw, feeling his dream within reach. But Beiping's streets hide dangers. While pulling, his new rickshaw is seized by warlord soldiers, shattering his dream. Undeterred, Xiangzi saves again, only to have his money extorted by Detective Sun. Marriage to Hu Neil, meant to be a fresh start, becomes a shackle. Hu Neil dies in childbirth, and how Fuzi's suicide delivers the final blow. Xiangzi falls into ruin, stealing and drinking, becoming a social outcast. His tragedy stems from the clash between personal effort and a harsh society. Lao She writes, "He had no striking looks. What made him lovable was the spirit in his face." That spirit is Xiangzi's faith in life. Yet, the old society's warlord chaos, wealth gaps, and moral decay trap him like an invisible net. He struggles repeatedly, only to be beaten down by reality. Lao She's vivid prose traces Xiangzi's journey from hope to despair, moving readers with his persistence and breaking their hearts with his fall. Why does Xiangzi's story resonate so deeply? It's not just a personal tragedy but a mirror of its era. In 1930s Beiping, warlords ruled, the economy withered, and the poor clung to survival. Xiangzi's rickshaw rolls through the mud of old society, crushing the dreams of countless laborers. Through Xiangzi, Lao She cries out against social injustice, leaving us a mirror of humanity. Xiangzi's tale also showcases the dignity of labor. When pulling, his steady steps and glistening sweat measure his dreams. In Book 2, To Buy a Rickshaw, he eats 2 meals of coarse grain daily, sleeping in a corner of the rickshaw yard, even dreaming of pulling. This devotion to labor recalls James Hargreaves, the 19th century British worker who invented the spinning jenny to improve his family's life, only to remain poor amid the Industrial Revolution's exploitation. Xiangzi's dignity and Hargreaves' persistence reflect the unyielding spirit of laborers. The undercurrents of old society, 3 shackles on humanity. Rickshaw Boy is more than a character study, it's a panorama of old society. Through Xiangzi's plight, Lao She reveals 3 shackles on humanity: economic exploitation, moral decay, and the unpredictability of fate. These forces leave people like Xiangzi with no escape. Economic exploitation, the quagmire of survival. Economic exploitation is the root of Xiangzi's tragedy. Beiping's rickshaw pullers trade their strength for meager earnings, barely escaping poverty. When Xiangzi arrives, he pulls for over 10 hours daily, earning just enough to survive. He saves every penny, taking 3 years to buy a rickshaw. Yet, warlord soldiers steal it, and Detective Sun extorts his savings under the guise of stolen goods. Lao She writes, "Xiangzi was like a bitten fruit, tossed into the trash." This isn't just personal loss but a portrait of laborers' exploitation. Exploitation comes not only from violence but from systems. Rickshaw yard boss Liu Xie squeezes pullers with high rents, and Hu Niu's marriage scheme is driven by profit. Xiangzi tries to change his fate through labor but finds no escape from exploitation's mire. This isn't fiction. In 1930s Beiping, some 100,000 rickshaw pullers lived this way, most never owning a rickshaw. Historian Xiangzi notes that urban workers' incomes in Old China averaged 2/3 of subsistence levels. Xiangzi's struggle reflects their reality. Exploitation also lies in rigid class divides. Xiangzi dreams of pulling for a decade to open a small shop. But the gap between classes is unbridgeable. In Book 7, he meets a wealthy passenger, dressed elegantly, speaking refinedly, like someone from another world. This chasm makes his dreams unattainable. Modern parallels exist. In 2019, France's Yellow Vest protests erupted over high taxes and low wages, echoing global class struggles. Contrastingly, in 2020, Vietnam's skills training helped rural workers become technicians, narrowing urban-rural gaps. Xiangzi's story reminds us, economic fairness is the bedrock of stability. Moral decay. The twisting of humanity. Moral decay in old society accelerates Xiangzi's fall. Beiping's streets replace trust with deceit. Detective Sun blackmails Xiangzi, Lao She ignores Puller's hardships, Hu Niu manipulates through marriage, and neighbors offer only indifference. Lao She writes, "In this viper's nest, no one can stay good or keep their spine." Xiangzi initially holds to principles, refusing to steal, but the toxic environment erodes his conscience. Eventually, he too deceives and grows numb. Moral decay stems from social injustice. In Book 9, Xiangzi tries to help a frail puller, Old Ma, but finds no one cares. Old Ma dies on the street. This teaches Xiangzi, good people get no reward. His kindness is crushed, making his fall inevitable. Lu Xun's call to arms shows a similar truth. Kang Yiji, driven to theft by society's coldness, is beaten to death. Moral collapse destroys both individuals and society's foundation. Moral decay also distorts relationships. Xiangzi's marriage to Hu Niu, meant to be mutual support, becomes a web of manipulation. In Book 12, Hu Niu mocks his dreams, saying, "What can your ambition achieve?" Her scorn chills his heart. Modern echoes exist. In 2013, Brazilian slum dweller Jus Silva lost community support due to disputes, sinking into hardship. Contrastingly, in 2018, Osaka, Japan, rebuilt trust through a neighborly aid program, cutting crime. Morality survives when we hold the line. Fate's cruelty, the shattering of hope. Fate's unpredictability delivers Xiangzi's final blow. He tries repeatedly to change his life, but accidents undo him. His rickshaw is stolen, savings extorted, Hu Niu dies in childbirth, and Hao Fuzi takes her own life. Lao She writes, "Xiangzi was like a leaf caught in a whirlwind, landing wherever it's blown." This powerlessness turns his fight into surrender. Fate's cruelty mirrors the era's chaos. In 1930s China, warlord conflicts and Japanese invasions left the poor like chaff in the wind. Hao Fuzi, once kind and pure, becomes a prostitute due to poverty and ends her life. She, like Xiangzi, is a victim of the times. Historian Chen Yink said, "In early Republican China, the poor's fate was like a candle in the wind." Xiangzi's story is a literary echo of this truth. Fate's cruelty also lies in absent opportunities. Xiangzi hopes for a kind soul to help him, but Beiping offers only coldness and exploitation. In Book 9, he sees a beggar ignored, not even pitied. This despair extinguishes his hope. Modern contrasts highlight this. In 2015, Ethiopian farmer Abibi escaped poverty through government loans for coffee farming. Yet in 2017, Syrian refugee Khalid, lacking aid, ended up homeless. Rickshaw Boy reminds us, against fate's cruelty, resilience and solidarity can rekindle hope. The cast of characters, Beiping's tragic and joyful lives. Rickshaw Boy paints a vivid picture of Beiping's underclass through its characters. Xiangzi, Hu Niu, Hao Fuzi, Liu Xie, and Old Ma each play out their own drama under society's crushing wheel. Xiangzi, a striver's lament. Xiangzi is the soul of Rickshaw Boy. He starts like a camel, resilient and determined, believing pulling to own a rickshaw is his path to happiness. Lao She writes, "He felt like a free man. Work was an honor." This belief makes him Beiping's hardest working puller. But reality's blows turn this camel into a sick mule, then a ghost. His tragedy lies in his devotion to a dream crushed by a merciless society. Xiangzi recalls Jack London's Chris Macready, a slum-born newsboy, and Shu Shiner dreaming of writing. Through self-study, Chris publishes Martin Eden but faces society's prejudice. Like Xiangzi, he's a striver blocked by class barriers. Xiangzi's fall reminds us, individual effort needs a fair society to thrive. His inner struggle is poignant. In Book 10, after losing his rickshaw, he sits alone on a curb, his heart like a stone. He wants to fight back but has no one to turn to. This helplessness deepens his tragedy. In 2016, Mexican worker Juan L. Pez, laid off from a factory, wandered the streets in silence, echoing Xiangzi. 2. Who knew? Strength masking fragility. Who knew? Liu Sai's daughter is bold yet complex. She schemes to marry Xiangzi, appearing dominant but craving love. Lao She writes, an old maid in her 30s, she's got a fire pent up inside. Her boldness resists women's constraints. Her scheming compromises with fate. Her death in childbirth leaves endless regret. Hu Niu recalls Kang Shunzi from Lao She's tea house, a shrewd manager struggling for survival. Both are portraits of women in old society. In 2014, Indian CEO Indra Nooyi led PepsiCo to global success with her grit, showing what Hu Niu might have achieved today. Hu Niu's complexity lies in her contradictions. In Book 13, she controls yet cares for Xiangzi, scolding him but loving him. This makes her both detestable and pitiable. In 2018, Kenyan worker Mary Wanjiku hid her pain to support her family, crying alone at night, much like Hu Niu. Her story calls for empathy toward women. 3. Xiaofuzi, purity's sacrifice. Xiaofuzi is Xiangzi's fleeting warmth. Kind and gentle, she's forced into prostitution by poverty and takes her own life. Lao She writes, she's like a flower blooming in a gutter unnoticed. Her death marks Xiangzi's breaking point and symbolizes the fate of the underclass's women. She recalls Qingwen from Dream of the Red Chamber, a talented maid who dies unjustly due to her low status. In 2019, Thai worker Apani died young from factory overwork. Yet in China's women workers' voice advocacy improved conditions for female migrants. Xiaofuzi's tragedy demands care for the vulnerable. Her purity shines in her selflessness. In Book 18, she sells herself to feed her siblings, suffering so they won't starve. This sacrifice deepens her tragedy. In 2021, Afghan teacher Fatima died protecting students amid war, her purity akin to Xiaofuzi's. 4. Liu Xie, the callous exploiter. Liu Xie, the rickshaw yard boss, is calculating and cruel, ignoring pullers' plights. Lao She writes, he's rich and powerful, but his heart's harder than stone. He embodies old society's exploitative class and moral rot. He recalls 19th-century British factory owner Robert Peel, who grew rich exploiting child laborers. Contrastingly, in 2021, IKEA's Ingvar Kamprad championed fair wages, improving workers' lives. Liu Sai's cruelty warns, wealth must rest on conscience. His coldness extends to controlling Hu Niu. In Book 11, he forces her marriage to Xiangzi to secure his wealth, seeing only money. Selfishness turns family into a transaction. In 2017, Indian tycoon Ramesh Patel's forced marriage of his daughter for profit led to family tragedy. Coldness costs kinship. 5. Old Ma, the underclass's shadow. Old Ma, Xiangzi's fellow puller, is old, frail, and destitute. In Book 9, he collapses on the street, ignored, and dies. She writes, Old Ma's like withered grass toppling in the wind. He represents Beiping's countless nameless poor. He recalls Run 2 from Lu Xun's Call to Arms, a lively boy worn into a numb man by life's weight. In Filipino fisherman Juan Santos lost his home to a typhoon and died unaided. Yet in 2022, China's targeted poverty alleviation lifted millions, offering hope. Old Ma's fate calls for society's warmth. The power of literature. Lao She's realist brilliance. Rickshaw Boy is Lao She's realist masterpiece. With Beiping as his stage, he uses plain language to depict the underclass's reality. His style blends Lu Xun's sharpness with Beijing's warmth, critiquing society while cherishing humanity. Realism's edge. Lao She's realism cuts to social ills. Through Xiangzi, he exposes old China's warlord chaos, wealth gaps, and moral decay. In Book 3, Beiping's streets teem with beggars and vagrants, like a giant dump. This echoes Lu Xun's critiques of feudalism in Dawn Blossoms Plucked at Dusk. Lao She's edge forces readers to face truth. His realism resonates globally. In the 1950s, Indian writer Mulk Raj Anand's Untouchable exposed caste cruelty, akin to Rickshaw Boy. In 2020, Nigerian author Chimamanda Adichie's Half of a Yellow Sun critiqued colonial scars, carrying on realism's tradition. Realist literature mirrors society and sparks reform. 2. Humanity's warmth bar. Grok Lao She's pen holds not just critique but compassion. His empathy for Xiangzi and pity for Hao Fuzi radiate care. In Book 20, Xiangzi buys candy for Hao Fuzi, his only bit of tenderness. Such details let humanity's glow shine through tragedy. This warmth persists today. In 2018, Pakistani writer Malala Yousafzai's I Am Malala moved millions with her fight for girls' education. In 2010, Chinese author Liu Cixin's The Three Body Problem stirred global empathy for humanity's fate. Literature's power lies in awakening kindness. 3. Language's charm. Lao She's language is simple yet vivid. Using Beiping's dialect, he crafts lively dialogue, like who news get lost, who needs you. This places readers in Beiping streets. In Book 5, Xiangzi's sweat glistens like tiny pearls. Such imagery gives the novel cinematic life. Lao She's style shapes later writers. In the 1980s, Yu Hua's To Live used plain language for Fugui's struggles, echoing Lao She. In 2019, Vietnamese writer Nguyen Ngoc Thu's Endless Field used dialect to depict farmers, honoring Lao She. Language is literature's soul, and Lao She lights Xiangzi's world with it. 4. Structural craft. Lao She's narrative in Rickshaw Boy is tightly woven. Xiangzi's 3 attempts to buy a rickshaw form the story's spine, each failure deepening the plot. Books 1 to 7 show hope to struggle, 8 to 15, compromise to despair, 16 to 24, fall to ruin. This structure builds tragedy with gripping force. This craft influences modern works. In the 1960s, Gabriel Garcia Márquez's 100 Years of Solitude linked family and history, like Lao She's structure. In 2020, Chinese writer Ali's In the Clouds layered earthquake survivors' tales, nodding to Lao She. Structure's artistry is literature's timeless allure. Modern lessons, from Xiangzi to us. Rickshaw Boy is more than a novel, it's a mirror of humanity. Xiangzi's tragedy urges us to reflect on fairness, effort, and resilience. Here are 4 lessons to carry from history to the future. 1. Fairness, the bedrock of striving. Xiangzi's tragedy stems from an unjust society. He gives his all but is crushed by exploitation and indifference. Lao She asks, good people get no reward, is this justice? This question demands a fair society. In tween, South Africa's minimum wage law uplifted black workers, helping countless Xiangzis chase dreams. Yet in 2019, rising wealth gaps in some nations sparked protests. Fairness is the soil for striving, and society must cultivate it. Fairness needs legal backing. In Book 6, Xiangzi, extorted, has nowhere to seek justice. This shows old society's legal void. In 2021, India's labor law reforms protected workers, curbing exploitation. Yet in 2022, judicial corruption in some places blocked the poor's rights. Fairness thrives with the rule of law. Resilience, life's beacon. Xiangzi, though defeated, shows resilience. He rises repeatedly against fate. Lao She writes, he gritted his teeth like biting iron. This inspires us. In 2011, Japanese quake survivor Kenichi Takahashi rebuilt his fishery, igniting hope. Yet in 2020, some, jobless from the pandemic, gave up. Resilience is life's beacon, guiding us through darkness. Resilience needs inner strength. In Book 16, Losing Hao Fuzi, Xiangzi's heart feels hollowed out. Lacking spiritual support, he falls. In Syrian refugee Ahmad Hassan leaned on faith to rebuild, becoming a community leader. Resilience is both endurance and inner power. 3. Compassion, society's warmth. Xiangzi's death hastens from neglect. Lao She writes, Beiping's winter chills not just the sky but hearts. This reminds us, compassion is society's warmth. In 2017, Canadians aiding a homeless man warmed a city. Yet in 2018, neglect of poor children in some areas sparked outrage. Compassion, like fire, lights hope. Compassion starts small. In Book 20, Xiangzi says to Xiangzi, "Be kind to me, and I'm content." A kind word can change a fate. In 2019, Chinese volunteer Wang Fang granted poor kids micro-wishes with backpacks, sparking dreams. Compassion grows from small acts. 4. Education, the key to change. Xiangzi's tragedy partly stems from ignorance. Illiterate and unskilled, he relies on physical labor. In Book 4, he envies scholars, they have a way out. Education unlocks new paths. In Bangladeshi girl Rani became a doctor through education aid. Yet in 2018, low education funding in some nations left poor kids behind. Education is hope's seed, needing society's care. Education must include skills. If Xiangzi learned to repair rickshaws, he might have escaped his toil. In 2020, China's vocational programs trained millions, boosting jobs. Yet in 2021, some nations neglected skills training, leaving workers outdated. Education empowers choice. Practical wisdom, bringing Rickshaw Boy to life. Rickshaw Boy's wisdom isn't just literary, it's for living. Here are 3 ways to weave its lessons into daily life. 1. Persist and reflect. Don't let fate win. Xiangzi's resilience teaches persistence. Lao She writes, he didn't fear hardship, only hopelessness. Try setting small goals daily, read a book, exercise 30 minutes and stick to them for a month to feel change's power. In 2016, Elon Musk persisted after rocket failures, succeeding with SpaceX. Persistence is success's foundation. Reflection is equally vital. Xiangzi, unreflective, repeats mistakes. In Book 17, Fallen, he doesn't even know himself. Try weekly reflection. Are my choices sound? How can I improve? In 2018, ByteDance refined algorithms via user feedback, dominating short video. Reflection drives progress. Care for others, spark small lights. Xiangzi's tragedy stems from indifference. Try one kind act daily, help a coworker, smile at a stranger. In 2017, New Zealand volunteer Emma Wilson fed the homeless, inspiring her community. Compassion ripples, warming the world. Compassion needs listening. Xiangzi yearns to be heard but finds no ear. In Book 19, Xiangzi listens quietly to his dreams. Try listening to a loved one's story, you'll see their hidden side. In 2019, American therapist Lisa Brown helped depressed patients recover through listening. Listening starts compassion. 3. Learn and grow, unlock new paths. Xiangzi's ignorance limits his options. Try learning a new skill daily: coding, writing, cooking. Indian youth Anil Kumar mastered e-commerce online, transforming his life. Learning is growth's key. Growth requires crossing boundaries. Xiangzi envies shopkeepers' connections in Book 5. Try new fields, volunteer, learn investing. In 2018, Chinese streamer Li Jiaqi went from makeup artist to billionaire broadcaster. Crossing boundaries opens new possibilities. Conclusion: the wheel rolls on, humanity endures. Rickshaw Boy is a timeless literary classic. It unveils old society's darkness through Xiangzi's tragedy and sparks hope through humanity's struggles. Lao She's simple prose paints Beiping's underclass, offering wisdom for modern challenges. From Xiangzi's striving to Xiangzi's purity to Hu Niu's complexity, each character shows humanity's wheel, though rolling through mud, never stops. In today's fast-changing world, Rickshaw Boy still resonates. It reminds us, fairness anchors effort, resilience lights life, compassion warms society, and education unlocks change. Whether you're a dream-chasing youth or a reflective thinker, this book lights a lamp in your heart. Lao She writes, "Life is a rhythm, needing light and shadow." Let Xiangzi's story fuel you to write your own legend on life's light and shadow path. Start today with one small act. Help a Xiangzi or Haofuzi nearby with a word of encouragement or an opportunity. These small lights will merge into a glow that brightens society. The wheel rolls on and humanity endures.